Hey, thought I'd do a little ditty for you on my guitar. So, I don't know, a while back, every once in a while I have somebody ask me about who I listen to, who my influences were. And I seen this thing on YouTube. It was called My Life in Five Riffs. Um, and this isn't five riffs, this is probably five different musicians or bands or whatever you want to call it that were influencing to me on where what I really honed in and then what I learned, and then I went backwards from there and learned it from, as they say, the masters, right? So with that said, it put me at a learning between probably 1966 and 19, let's say, just say 72, of who I was listening to during that time frame, or even after that, or even up through to today. And then everyone else that fell into place, Muddy Waters, Albert King, T-Bone Walker, those sorts of guys, because I'm a blues player, right? But I lived through the Rolling Stones and Blues Magoos and all of that jazz, right? Buddy Holly and stuff, but I really honed in on what was going on in 66, and it didn't spike my interest until 66, 67 time frame. I had an older brother that played guitar. He's 5 years older than me, so that's probably where it all sank in at that moment in time. And spinning an album on his little turntable and listening to this first album. It was an album, and it came out in '66. I didn't probably hear it till '67. I was 11 or 12 years old. Let's put it that way, and got my first guitar. Although I couldn't play this stuff, I listened to it intently. Right, I learned rudimentary stuff like Gloria, and House of the Rising Sun and stuff. But then I heard this, and this came off of Fresh Cream. And it was Jack Bruce, as you know, Ginger Baker, and Eric Clapton. And I heard them do this song. It was called, here it went like this. The bass started it out, but obviously I'm not going to do the bass line, but Clapton was playing along with it. When I heard that, I think that's what did it, man. And I listened to that very closely, and I probably was 17 or 18 years old before I picked that up. But I think that whole thing in my mind, knew nothing about guitars, knew nothing about about pickups, Les Pauls, and all that stuff. And then there was another album they did, right? Well, they did Fresh Cream. Then they did Disraeli Gears. I mean, there was a song on there, and we do it in my band too, as blues based as it is, right? Outside Women Blues. If you lose your money, great God, don't lose your mind. I heard that, and that was Clapton singing. Where Sleepy Time was Jack Bruce, but there was another album that came out, and I can't. It was the third album that Cream did, and let's see, Fresh Cream, Disraeli Gears, and they did another one and then Goodbye Cream. There was 4 albums, but I can't remember the third album. But this was a live cut, and this was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. This song right here. Crossroads. So I was like, holy fuck, man. That is something. And again, I was 13 or something. I couldn't play any of that shit, right? So right around that same time, I don't know, man, probably 69. I was 13. And I was playing my 3-chord Gloria and what have you, and learning some, Dirty Water and whatever you play. And then an album came out, and this was on it. And it was an Allman Brothers album, their first album. And I heard that, and that was another holy fuck moment, right? Like, man, listen to that shit. And, then I obviously, many years later, I went backwards from there. I didn't know at the time. I just thought they wrote that song, Trouble No More. And then the second album, I can't remember the name of it. Maybe it was Idlewild South. And they did a song called Dreams. I was listening to that, and then I realized, holy crap, you can have 2 guitar players in the band. And their harmonies, this was something totally different I wasn't used to hearing. I mean, you had Eric Clapton, and in the first album, I really didn't pay attention to there was no other guitar players in those 3 albums. There was just the 3-piece, and then you got the 4-piece and Trouble No More. I didn't really hone in that there was a couple guitar players, but it's not until I heard Dreams and I heard with an opposing guitar going. Both of those together, and then each guy taking a lead, and you had, Dwayne on one side and Dickie Betts on the other side. And that wasn't a straightforward blues thing. It wasn't the same as, and it wasn't even close to 3-chord, that it had those changes going on, and although it had some, and I don't read music, and I don't look at scales, and I have no idea most of the time what I'm playing, but it was probably that Allman Brothers band. They covered this gambit of stuff, like in memory of Elizabeth Reed from Live at the Fillmore, and that all of that real, I don't know what you'd call it. I don't know what you call it to this day, but it was different. It wasn't a straight blues format thing, right? That I was used to hearing. And then, fucking Eat a Peach came out, right? Allman Brothers once again. And so you had, I'm straying from the blues to, Dreams kind of, and then to Elizabeth Reed, that kind of thing. Then all of a sudden you had this real melodic. All this melodic shit. And it took me, so those 3 albums there, and whatever that was, 69, 70, 71 time frame, 72, Eat a Peach came out. Dwayne had, died. But then there was these three genres of style. I don't know what you call it. Musicality. Those albums showed me this musicality that I didn't know existed outside of a, 1-4-5 progression. So at that point I was kind of stuck in that 1972. But also going backwards, listening to Muddy Waters, listening to Freddie King, Albert, King. Shuggie Otis, just a wide range, T-Bone Walker, Earl, John Lee Hooker, all of that, and then all of that came into play for me. But there was another guy that I listened to, Mike Bloomfield, and he did a bunch of stuff, but there was one particular album, that got me, which was I think it was called Live at the Fillmore West, and I had heard Bloomfield to me had the ultimate touch, and I really honed in on that album. And then from there, I just picked up bits and pieces along the way. My slide playing, I started early on, listening to Elmore James, and I listened to Johnny Winter too. Although I listened to Jimi Hendrix and I listened to a lot of different people, I never tried to get on the Johnny Winter bandwagon as far as playing his licks, that kind of shit. But I never got into really listening to him. He was in a thing of his own. Same with Hendrix. He's just I never got into strayed too far from what I just explained, other than going backwards and listening to the other guys do it. Where Clapton got it from, where Duane Allman listened to, where Dickie Betts, where Mike Bloomfield got it from, where Elmore James was getting it from. Another guy, Shuggie Otis, just a young, phenomenal player. So my styles and how I play is right within that time frame, So there you have it, man. That's 15 minutes worth of my riff, or my thoughts, and maybe not 5 riffs, but 5 years, right? 67, 8, 9, 71, 72, 6 years.